This is a recording of me playing Metroid Prime on the Metroid Prime Trilogy edition on the normal difficulty setting. The goal of this recording is to provide a 100% walkthrough both for 100% scans and 100% items in an efficient, non-game breaking or exploitive manner. We are using all the tools and techniques that the developers intended. We begin the game with unidentified stress beacon has been tracked to a derelict space vessel in orbit above Talon 4. And we are greeted to a cutscene of outer space here. I will say for a game that came out in the early 2000s, the graphics look really good. One of the hallmarks I always find about the graphics here is that the planet Talon 4, which is in the background, has a slight polygonal look to it. It seems that the shape of it has some slight cornering, but it seems that all the games around this time didn't have perfect circles, but instead had just all these polygonal representations of what we would consider to be circular things. In this cutscene, we can see that Samus Aran is piloting her ship, ready to board this derelict vessel. I find the design of the ship to be a little odd. It's nice to see that with each game comes with a new interpretation of what Samus' ship looks like. Presumably that after every major mission, Samus is rewarded or given compensation for her to buy or acquire a brand new ship. The thing that bothers me is the bottom four thrusters to me don't seem to make a whole logical sense. I think it would actually be very difficult in reality to pilot such a ship. Makes for great artistic interpretation, but from a physics point of view, I don't think it would be very practical. The game begins with a tutorial of sorts. The idea is to get used to the controls to shoot these targets, as well as to make use of the scan visor to scan these panels, and to introduce the player to the basic mechanics of the game. In the GameCube, you are encouraged to lock on to all the targets and shoot the targets to get used to the lock-on mechanics. With the Wii controls, as I'm using them here, you don't have that restriction. You can still lock on, but with the pointer, you can point to wherever you want on the screen to give it a nice bit of free form. We enter the derelict space frigate here. The frigate here is named Orpheon. This is the one and only room that requires depressurization. As you can see, there's some kind of creature floating there. And once the room is depressurized, all the items fall to the ground. And we can see that, yep, indeed, this is a derelict spaceship. We have some giant creatures here and the remnants of a fire. We have our very first scan. Morphology: parasite, interstellar vermin, travel in swarms. Indigenous to Talon 4, a single parasite is harmless to larger life forms. However, they tend to travel in large groups, swarming over potential prey. Such swarms can be dangerous. Indeed. You can see a dead space pirate here. We can scan the space pirates to see what happened to them. So in this particular case, space pirate status, death caused by severing of the spinal cord. A number of dead space pirates appear all around, and we can scan them to see what their fates brought. There is also a few living space pirates as well that can easily be killed. Escape pod launch coordinates: Talon 4, 110L.30L. Research Command Center. Presumably that some of the space pirates took these escape pods and flew to Talon 4. We can see some of the escape pods, I guess, are active while others have been used. But in any case, we will make our way And we will follow the tutorial message by blowing open the debris with a charge beam. This cutscene here introduces the idea of Samus's morph ball, staple in all Metroid games. Simply have Samus morph into a morph ball to enter this map chamber, and we can scan the map station here to learn about the map station. Map station. Walk into map station holograms to download a map of the area you're in. Straightforward. There are some optional scans as well here. So frigate exterior hull is stable and fully functional, so the frigate's not going to destruct anytime soon. Talent 4 ground zero area secure. Crater radiation reading normal. Well, we'll learn more about the crater later. 2 parasite queen specimens have become volatile on deck beta. All security personnel should report to the biotech research area. And finally, parasite infestation has been detected in the ventilation systems of deck scan and beta. Presumably these morph ball tunnels then are part of the ventilation system, but I find that a little odd. It seemed just a little too convenient. One thing to note, I don't intend to visit any of the map stations, so I'm quite familiar with all the areas, so I won't be using the map stations at all, but for new players they would be helpful to find and help navigate and plan some of the areas. So you see some hazards here. Take a slight bit of damage and use the morph ball bombs to open the doors here. As we make our way, we see more wounded space pirates. Here's another wounded space pirate. One thing you'll notice is that we can use the charge beam to attract power-ups, including this energy, small energy, replenishes 10 units of energy. So part of the research is to scan these energy power-ups. Energy is used to basically represent Samus' health and her power suit. Here we have an auto turret. Subject, auto defense turret. Use missiles to break outer casing. So we'll do that. And of course, just like scanning energy units, we should scan missile units. Missile ammunition. Resupplies missile launcher with 3 rounds of ammo. There are lots of optional scans in the space frigate, but I'm going to try and stick to the more important ones. So phase on infusion stage 1, parasite larva diagnostic, mass 1.2, length 0.5, cell structure stable. Not sure what the units are, but that's interesting. Phase on infusion stage 2, introducing mutagen into tank, phase on badge 0732.C, status complete. I'm not sure what phase on is yet, but we'll find out. A new pirate data entry has been downloaded into your logbook, so this is the only critical logbook scan here. Space pirate encrypted data decoded. Log 09.992.3. Zebus has fallen. All ground personnel are presumed dead, either killed by the hunter clad in metal or in the subsequent destruction of the underground facilities. Our research frigates Orpheon, Syriacus, and Valparagam were in orbit at 0 hour and managed to retreat. Frigate Orpheon is now docked at Vortex Outpost. Orpheon's cargo appears to have a 100% survival rate. Metroids are healthy, but on restricted feeding schedules due to uncertain supply status. We are ready to begin research on the Metroids and other promising life forms. Security status remains at Code Blue. No sign of pursuit from the hunter. Phase on infusion stage 3. Mutagen initiated. Larvae status stable. Here we have a scan. This one is important. Perimeter defense turret disabled. So this allows us to disable the defense turret and not have to blow them up. Here we see some stasis tanks. Some dead creatures. Phase on infusion stage 4. Larvae diagnostic. Mass 14.5, length 40.3, cell structure failing. So whatever they're doing, the creatures are growing quite quickly. But cell structure is unstable. And finally, specimen cell structure failing. Batch 0732.Z does not match DNA, terminating infusion sequence. So whatever genetic research the pirates are doing, they're not having a lot of success. Experiment 435.8, bioform pain tolerance levels at 13% and holding. Biohazard waste removal may begin in 3 hours. Phazon radiation readings must be reported to deck commander before batch disposal. Here we have another control panel where we have an elevator to the upper deck here. The thing about the Space Pirate logs is they're referring to the fact that Metroid Prime takes place shortly after the events, in fact almost immediately after the events of Samus's first encounter on planet Zebes. There, Samus destroyed the Space Pirate efforts of stealing Metroids and trying to use them to take over the galaxy by blowing the planet up and taking Mother Brain with her. So whatever space pirates remained on the planet, they escaped. This is one of the frigates that they escaped in. And now Samus is pursuing them. Charge beam shots are particularly useful. We could use missiles. We'll save the missiles for a little bit later. So, one of the more interesting things is that there are these holograms and other devices that are activated by Samus in morph ball form. I find the kind of logic of this always a little bit strange, because after all, Samus is the only creature that uses morph ball technology. So I'm not sure why the Space Pirates would have it. Presumably that there would be some reason for the Space Pirates to use it. Perhaps they have some mechanical devices that are morph ball shaped that are needed, or there is some other reason. Anyway, as we're making our way through the frigate, we're coming upon the reactor here, and we're going to be fighting the first major boss. As the game progresses, this is really just a tutorial mission, as we're investigating to get used to all of Samus's equipment and abilities before we begin the game proper. And so our first fight is with the Parasite Queen. Recommended that with any sort of creature, when you're fighting them, to scan them to find out their weak points. So Parasite Queen, parasitic female, genetically enhanced by unknown means. A weak spot has been detected in this creature's mouth. Use your auto-targeting to acquire this new target. Scans indicate the presence of a potent mutagen, origins unknown. Creature exhibits the ability to fire weapons-grade blasts of energy from its mouth, a trait not present in the standard parasitic genome. It appears the pirates have begun a bioengineering program with considerable results, and certainly I'll agree with that. So the big thing here is that now that we've learned that the weak point of the Parasite Queen is in her mouth, so we should aim for her mouth and concentrate our weapons fire on that area. See, it doesn't take much, a handful of missiles and a few shots on normal mode to defeat the Parasitic Queen. The result which is that the defeated queen falls into the reactor and will cause a chain reaction explosion.
Evacuate immediately. Evacuate immediately.
The escape sequence in Metroid games has become a staple, so at various points in nearly every game, in fact I think in every game, Samus has to go through some sort of timed escape sequence. In this case we have just under 7 minutes to reach the exit of the frigate and get back to our ship. One of the things that I think is a little strange is that how does Samus even know that there's only 7 minutes left? But never mind. Here we see the other Parasite Queen, and again causing some sort of reactor problems. And we will just blast the parrot. you can see, my missile count's kind of low. But that's not going to be a problem because, well, we'll see in a few minutes why. We go through these various tunnels infested by parasites. But again, these parasite swarms are nothing to be of concern because we'll just bypass them and keep escaping. Shoot them along the way. One thing I will say I do like about this, and I do appreciate, is that we're not going back the way we came. In fact, we are going through a different route altogether. So we get to see different parts of the ship. Presumably this is some kind of vast ventilation network to provide fresh air throughout the entire Orpheum. And now I've completed my missiles, but thankfully we got some ammo pickups, and we will be continuing forward. Ignoring the parasites, and as you can see, they don't really pose any real threat. I'm not taking any significant damage from them. At higher difficulties maybe, but even then, they really don't pose much of a threat. Just try to blast as many as you can and avoid them. Now, when I first played this game, this piston certainly shocked me, and I thought maybe this was going to be some kind of puzzle where I had to reach the other side before the piston engaged again. But it's not much of a puzzle. You just follow the piston as it's retracted to find the other exit. And we come across, I'm not exactly sure what area of the ship this is, but we encounter a familiar foe. Those of you who've played other Metroid games will recognize the creature as Ridley, although in this case, this version of Ridley looks to be a metallic cybernetic creature. The original Ridley in the original Metroid game was a purplish dinosaur. Here we have to use our grapple beam to grapple across the other side to avoid taking damage. And we can read a bit about Ridley. Subject Meta Ridley. Cerebral casing stable. Exoskeleton seal holding. Begin umbilical retraction. And Subject Meta Ridley. Weapon update complete. Stinger ballistics online. Plasma fuel cell online. So Ridley in this case I think has been upgraded from the original Ridley to now Meta Ridley, and has been given some additional weapons other than the fire breathing ability Ridley had in the original game. Here we have an interesting cutscene, and I do actually like this a lot. So activating this elevator here causes this cutscene to occur, and Samus now loses the majority of her abilities. So you can see various suit malfunction, morph ball malfunction, missile malfunction, charge beam malfunction, grappling beam malfunction. So Samus in effect has lost a number of her abilities due to that particular explosion. It's a nice way and a novel way of trying to indicate that, you know, this is how Samus loses her abilities. So it's, you know, you might think, you know, can such an explosion really affect Samus, this intergalactic, you know, reputable bounty hunter? Perhaps, you know, I think it works. Once we reach the exit of the Orpheum, we can see that the Orpheum really is going to self-destruct. Ridley, by his own power, is able to fly to the surface of Talon 4. So Samus is going to take her ship and pursue Ridley to the planet. How an organic creature like Ridley can fly in space, once again, this doesn't seem to make a lot of sense from a physics perspective, but again, tracking on enemy target has been lost. Ground-based recon required. Begin landing sequence. So this is where the game begins proper. Samus is going to take her ship and land on the surface of the planet. As we can can see that Ridley's nowhere to be found, but Samus is going to find a suitable location for her ship to land. Although, again, when the ship lands, it doesn't really land on the ground per se, but just um, hovers just above the ground. Again, somehow these thrusters are supposed to make the ship highly maneuverable and agile. So our first goal, really, before we take on Ridley, and well, we will save our game. Our first goal is to try and acquire all the items that we lost, and to pursue. We will begin this process momentarily.